So music is an intricate system of layers of sound and silence, and music can be really complex, like we see here. This happens to be a piece of flute music, or it can be really simple. This is also a piece of flute music. No matter what that level of complexity that we have, all of it comes from this basic foundation of a system of notes and rests that are intertwined, and they create the music that we listen to every single day. So as we start to look at this basic foundation of music, we are going to start with looking at this idea of rhythm. So this is what we would call a note tree, and this shows how our musical notes are broken down based on the value or the length that each one has. So for today's purposes, we're going to talk about music that is grouped in a system of 4 beats or 4 counts. When we look at this and we look at our top note up here, this is a whole note, and our whole note gets 4 beats. Whether it is 4 beats of sound or 4 beats of silence, it is 4 beats. As we go down, each name of our note comes from how we've broken apart that whole note. So if our whole note was 4 beats, we can break it into 2 half notes. We can then break it into 4 quarters or 8 eighth notes. We can continue going down this into 16th notes, 32nd notes, and so on. Really, we have an infinite limit. Today, we're going to talk about just these first couple of layers. So as we get into these various lengths of notes, we can take those different lengths and we can put them into patterns, and this is what creates rhythm. So as we look at this rhythm pattern, and if we think back to that note tree, on that note tree we were seeing that that half note gets 2 beats. So here we would have 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we get to that whole note, which is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we had 2 beats of silence here. As we come back in, now we get to those quarter notes. Those were 1 beat each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when I go in and if I play that on an instrument, and I'll show it on the flute today, when I play that, I'm making my sound last for the length of time that each of these notes says. Now that all works fine, but we know that we don't live in this monotone world. Everything that we do, whether it's through our speaking or through music, has pitch. That means that we have high sounds, we have low sounds. So as we move from that, we now move into what we call our music staff, and that's how we know what direction our notes are going to go. So our music staff is made up of 5 lines and 4 spaces. Every one of our lines is assigned a letter name, which is a note. In this case, we're looking at our treble clef. Now we have multiple clefs, but today we're just going to focus on the one. So this treble clef tells me that the first line of it is the note E. Then the second is a G, B, D, and F. Our spaces are F, A, C, and E. Now the cool thing is, when I combine all of that, I am going through what we call our musical alphabet. So if I start on the letter E of my alphabet, I'm doing E, F, G. Now our musical alphabet does not go past G, so we start it back over. A, B, C, D, E, F. So when I take this understanding, and a lot of times when we teach it to our younger students, we are using mnemonic devices. So you might hear your child come home and say, "Every good boy does fine," or "Elvis's guitar broke down Friday." And then we always talk about face in the space. Anything like that to remember where the positioning of those notes are really makes a difference in them remembering it at that younger age. So when we take that idea of the rhythm and the placement of our notes, we can now combine them and create the music. This is that same rhythm that you heard me play on the flute before. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. But when I combine it with the movement of my pitches, I get a song. And that's the basic outline of our music. It comes from building blocks of rhythm and pitch until we can get into how we are organizing them to create our song. Now, learning this music does not happen overnight. It is not something that you instantly can look at and go, yes, I've got it. There are lots of tools that you can access outside of the classroom. These are fun things that you can do from home as long as you have access to the internet. So some of these examples are, there's a great game system called Note Trainer that is at a website called musictheory.net. And this is where you can just simply practice identifying where those notes fall on the line and space. And what you do is when you see that note, you click the letter that it corresponds to. It will tell you if you're right or wrong, and then it will move on to another note. You can keep track, you can create timed tests for yourself, anything like that to practice that repetition of note reading. If you're more of a video game type person, then website like Music Tech Teacher is awesome because they have dozens of games that you can play, whether it is Instrument Scramble or the Instrument Soccer Challenge, or going over and looking at some different quizzes. There's music worksheets you can download. There's a Space Invaders game, and all of it helps you get better at reading not just notes, but there are things that revolve around that rhythm too. Other great examples, another website, Music Teachers Games. That one you can practice reading based on the clef. So if you're playing an instrument that reads bass clef notes, you can pull up a bass clef game and you can practice reading those notes because they lay on our staff a little bit differently. And then finally, we have Smart Music, and this is a tool that maybe you've heard of in the music classrooms. A lot of the teachers use this, but Smart Music does have an option to purchase and have for your home computer, and this is a situation where you can actually have the lines from a method book that's being used in a band or orchestra or choral class and play or sing along with it into a microphone and actually get it to critique back to you by turning notes red and green to help with reading and understanding that music. The bottom line is, once you can establish that really solid foundation, the rest of music starts to fall into place, but it does not happen overnight, and the sooner we can establish that core foundation, the sooner they're going to be able to get into that complicated music and really, really make the music that I know they want to do. In the end, of course, you need to step back and remember that every great musician was once a beginner. We all started in this basic place. And if you need more resources, we have a wonderful staff of music teachers who are there for you, for your child. Reach out to your school's music teacher. We are definitely here to help.